tech here.
Very high tech. All right. Hi, this is Post Meridian Podcast. This is Stephanie.
I'm Alexis.
And we are sitting here with Rick from WXED, or 107.3.
You got that right, yeah.
And we're just going to chat with him about what he does and what he's about and, I don't know, what he has to say. Right. So I guess if you want to say a little bit about yourself, go right on ahead.
All right, my name is Rick Venezi. I'm Ricky V, WXED 107.3, and that's an Ellwood City community radio station. My show airs midnight to 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Same show, but it's that good. You know, put it on twice, right? You know,
as nice.
You know. And I do the morning shows, as you can tell by those time frames. And it's just basically something that I always enjoyed, radio, listening to as a young kid and as an adult, radio all the time. And here, Cindy Antonassi, the late Cindy Antonassi, wanted to start a community radio station because we used to have one based in Ellwood City years ago, but it kind of moved out of the area, even though you can hear it here. Right. So she came up with an idea to have a community radio station which focused on community, Ellwood City. So I got the idea, well, I'd like to have a talk show, call-in talk show. Yeah. So when I come in the room the first day of the meeting, I thought, there's going to be 200 people. They're going to tell me you have no experience, get out. There was 10 people, and they said, do you want to do a show? So we don't do call-in shows, but we do have shows. And, you know, I have a show that 2 times a day, and there's a gentleman that comes in Saturday. He actually does a live show, Mike Romai. We have people come in and do specials for the holidays. And it's a well-rounded station. It's community-based, and it's a Christian license held by Dayspring Ministries. And so we do our thing. You know, we have Marianne Shaner comes up and does some shows and interviews and some weather. Jerry Corbin comes in and does stuff for the station. It's just amazing how 6 people can make a 24-hour operation work.
Right.
So we're up and running, and we invite anybody in the community who wants to get involved on any level. Right. No commitment required. We don't say you have to do 20 hours a week. We just say, if you have something to say in the community, come on up, let us know what it is, and we'll try to develop it.
Yeah, spit it out.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Well, that's very inspiring, I would say.
Right.
And it's something I think that it would be really cool to be a part of.
Right.
Yeah. Where can people get a hold of you if they want to become a part of that?
If they want to phone the station, 724-201-0515. And we're at 316 6th Street in Ellwood City, of course. And all they have to do is leave their name and phone number. We'll get back to them because any topic really is a topic that we're open to. But, of course, once we get the ideas, we do have to pass it by the board to get the okay from them. And it could be anything. I mean, we're looking for example, let's say a carpenter who wants to come in on maybe a Sunday and do 5 2-minute segments, and we can play them each day of the week. Here's Tom's carpenter tip about the proper nails.
That's awesome.
That
you
is
know,
awesome.
And if he comes in once a week and does 5 2-minutes, same thing with an electrician, a baker, somebody who does needles, crafts.
It's like everyone's getting some information.
And that's community, and would love to have, even like the podcast here. You guys want to come up and give people tips on how to start a podcast, what a podcast is, the benefits of a community podcast, whatever. But the only thing, it's hard to get people. We're like the Munsters. You guys ever know the Munsters?
I love the Munsters.
People come and see us and they never come back. You know? I think people get afraid of the word volunteer. They think they're tied in. But we don't tie anyone in. It's you come and do what you want, and you come and go as you please.
That's awesome. Yeah,
definitely support that.
Commitment does scare people.
Yeah.
Okay. What got you, I guess, into, like, when did you get into the radio thing?
Well, like I said, I listened to a lot of radio growing up. I used to have the transistor radio under my mattress in elementary school listening. And then through the years, I was an overnight newspaper deliverer for the Post-Gazette. So I loved tuning in the AM radio dial because you can pick up AM radio all over the place at night. And I would get Canada, I'd get Iowa, I'd get Florida. So I just love the idea of communicating in that kind of realm. And so here, you know, it's more of a local thing. We stream all over the world, by the way, at WXEDFM.com. But our antenna is only a 5-mile radius because we're meant to be focusing on Ellwood. I mean, if we can get heard in Cranberry and Newcastle, great. But the idea is to highlight the Ellwood City area. So I fell in love with the idea of being a voice of the community because, as you know, the local newspapers aren't what they used to be. So they're not as big a grip on. People don't say, boy, I got to call this newspaper to get the information out. We want to be the focal point
Right.
We want everybody to call us and say, this is some information and this is what we can do. Yeah, we'll put it on the airwaves.
Right.
We'd even like to develop a news staff.
That would be awesome.
You know, we can have
Yeah,
2 or 3 people who go out and get the news. Somebody who wants to follow the fire trucks to see what's going on, or who wants to jump out of bed at 4 in the morning when the alarms go off to say, there's a big wreck on Fountain Avenue.
Right.
Warn the people in the morning.
Right.
But
Right.
like I said, it's slow getting volunteers, and we're getting there. But we've been on the air 4 years and maybe 2 or 3 months now at this point, and we are developing more and more followers.
Right.
But of course, baby steps.
Oh yeah,
You know, it
absolutely.
takes time. It
to
does.
really build that.
And we're striving for that. Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We totally understand that because we're trying to also
Yep.
build ourselves up as well.
Right.
So
For sure.
we're building each other up together. On
Sure,
this
this
one.
is what it's all about, hand in hand.
Absolutely.
You know, the podcast helps us, and hopefully the airwaves from the radio will help you guys.
Yes, I hope so.
You know.
Yes. Okay. Well.
So, we've already talked about this, but like you've been doing this for like as long. Did you go like do this since?
Just when they
Since you
started.
were a boy?
Yeah, radio being on air just since they started. Like I said, I come in with the idea of having a call-in show, you know, but they didn't want to get into that at first. And plus, you have to have the right equipment. We would need either a delay button or a dump button, which means that our show would be 7 seconds behind. That way, if somebody's talking and they're swearing, we can delay it and cut them out. We have to have the money to buy that stuff. So right now, we're not doing talk shows like that.
Right.
We do have a way where a DJ could take a live call, but that person wouldn't be on air.
Right.
You know, he'd be able to tell the DJ, hey, I'd like to hear this song. Okay, thanks for calling. Click and play the song.
Right.
But we're going to get there. I feel we're going to have a talk show within the next year.
That would be awesome.
A real quick question. Since you guys are like Christian radio, do you guys play rock and roll at
Yeah,
all?
they are very open to just about
Love it.
everything except foulness. I mean,
Right.
you can have hard rock, metal rock. I mean, and there's even an occasional swear word in the song, but it's not like a derogatory. It's not it's not slamming any religion, or it's not slamming any person in particular. You know, but yeah, I play all kind of music on my station. I'm focusing on 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Love it.
But I do play 60s, and I do play some of the newer stuff once in a while.
Right.
Just because I know there's people out there who want to listen. They want to hear something different.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
we don't do much country, and
No,
yeah,
Thank God
we hate it.
that's it.
Absolutely. Get
But
out of town.
but we do have people who at one time had a 2-hour country show, and it was a pretty good show. So we try to hit all sectors and
Yeah,
everybody.
I mean, we got to appeal
Very
to
nice.
almost every crowd, really.
We got to try to draw them in somehow.
Yeah.
And once people get to know what we have, then they tune in. So then we say to our sponsors, hey, we got this many people listening at this hour. They give us money
Money's
because
good.
they know if 500 people are going to listen, then they'll hear us in the sponsorships.
Right.
Right.
And that's how we get money. We try to tell them that, you're going to be highlighted during this show because of that. I mean, I got people with the Eric Ryan Corporation sponsors the whole studio plus me.
That's
Beth
so
Hazen
sweet.
Nationwide sponsors my show in particular. We got Mike Mata, Mata Heating and Air Conditioning sponsoring the daily weather. So they know that
Right.
they're going to be heard this time of the day. And they feel comfortable knowing it's going to help them.
Right.
Right.
Or they wouldn't give us the
Wonderful.
money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
they're not going to rake
Yeah.
the money out or put the money out if they don't get nothing back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For
You're not
sure.
just gonna,
And we do
throw it
sponsorships. We don't do advertising. It's a little bit different where people, what it is, they're giving us money. They're sponsoring us to stay on the air. So when we list them, we're not allowed to say, stopping at Joe's, 2-for-1 hot dogs. That's
Right.
what they call a call to action. We're not allowed to inspire people to go in. We can't say, stop in now. We can't say, $4 for 4 hot. We can't do that kind. We could say, Joe's Hot Dogs is open 7 to 7 today. If you would like to call, 724-24.
Just like their information.
But we can't just give out, you can't do call to actions. Come in for a hot cup of coffee. That's the FCC rules. That's not
That's
ours.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's stuff I definitely don't know about.
Yeah.
When
It's because we're a small, low-power, nonprofit
Right.
station. But we make profit.
Well, that's good though,
Yeah, we're-
because I mean,
We're still doing good financially.
volunteer is nice, but making money is also nice.
Exactly.
I mean,
And that's the way we can get equipment, you know.
Right, yeah.
I
you
mean,
need new stuff.
you'll see around this place there's a lot of equipment, and it just didn't happen to show up.
Right. Yeah.
Some people donated, which is nice, and we always look for donations.
Yeah.
But we go out and earn it. You know, we
Right.
go out and sometimes you'll see Marianne will be out at public events where you'll see the big WXED banner. She'll be in front of a store and we'll have a donation cup. people throw in $3, $5. At the end of the day, we might have an extra $100.
Right. And it all
So,
adds up.
and that keeps us on the air so we can put out community events. Like our big thing is people have fundraisers, like they're defraying the cost of cancer treatments. So we're allowed to say there's going to be a dinner for Joe this Sunday at this church, blah, blah, blah. So, that's why we're on the air, to do those kind of public. I mean, we'll do anything, but that's our focus, is to make people in Ellwood feel comfortable.
Right.
I mean, we want them to know that there's people out there pushing their events, the good events,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like on my show, when you tune in, because you will.
Because you will.
You'll see that I'm not professional at all. And I don't sound professional, and I don't want to sound professional.
You fool me at work.
Because
You do. He's like, I want 2 burritos, no sauce, steak, egg, and cheese, bagel, and a large Diet Coke.
see,
Thank you.
but my whole routine is, so if I sound too good, then people in the community will say, oh, I couldn't do that. Because
Right,
he
like, I'm not
sounds
gonna volunteer.
he sounds professional. I can't join that. So I want them to know that even someone like me, who's not a professional, who makes mistakes,
Right.
They can join because I do it.
Right. Just a regular old Joe.
But if
Schmo,
if I sounded too slick, they would say, well, I don't have that talent.
Unintimidated, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
It's
sometimes
intimidating.
it just so happens that I do sound good once in a while.
That's just a little part of the thing.
I happen to fall into that once in a while.
Right.
Oh,
People have told us we have good voices for radio.
sure.
So it's, I don't know, it's definitely uplifting.
Yes, and like I said, we always look for volunteers. So after we're done with the podcast, you
Might
guys,
catch us on the show.
that's right.
What's up?
Give it some thought.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yes. How did the phrase of the day start, or
The word of the day.
the word?
When I was developing a show, I kept thinking, what do I like to hear? Well, I like to hear the historical events, and they're called a day in history, but I call them the death and destruction list, because most of them lists is always something burning down or people getting murdered.
Right.
So that's the death and destruction list. The word of the day I always like, because there's some words out there we use that, where'd that come from? Why do we use it? Like the other day I did mayor, because Mayor Tony Court comes in to do a show, and I thought, where'd this word come from? So I look it up and do it. And then, of course, at the end of the show, I do a Ricky V medical moment, where the information's accurate, but sometimes I can't read the words. So I kind of slaughter them, and I make fun of myself if possible. And it's easy to do that part. But, you got to plot the show out. It's an hour long, and sometimes we just have things happen that are by complete accident, and they're a riot.
Right.
Other times you try to be funny, and you hear thud. Complete thud.
Right.
And you'll find that out if you ever, join a staff on a radio staff. You'll say, how did that look or sound so good in my head? But when I went and did it, it just wasn't nowhere. But we're all learning. We're all still learning here. None of us are professionals.
Right.
We're just people from the community.
Just want to make a difference.
Yes, and we really are in this community.
Yeah.
I think that's nice. Someone wants to, you guys want to try and, evolve Ellwood City still. You guys have hope in the town, because I feel like a lot of the town is dying.
Yeah.
And they're just letting it die when there's, a law of
They don't
opportunity
care.
that can happen. We can get money. We can make it, into a nicer town. I support all this. Yeah, I didn't
Kind of
know.
restoration
Yeah.
of what is.
How much you guys did.
Well, what you girls are seeing now in Ellwood City, you're seeing it going on the upswing. You were too young to see when it was really at the low point, when the mills all moved out. So you guys are now starting to be at the beginning where it's been going up a little in the last 5-10 years, but I think you girls will see it really blossom, because having a radio station is beneficial to the community. And having the podcasts that everybody's doing, people look for that. They say, is the school district good? Are they keeping the taxes low? Do they have things for our children to do, or me to even volunteer at?
Right.
And so they say, oh, they have a radio station?
Right.
They have 2 high schools? So people will move into the area because of that. And, of course, it's decently low crime in this area.
Right.
So you're on the good end, that you're going to see Ellwood City continue to prosper.
Right. Which is exciting. Right.
And you can be on the forefront.
Forefront.
Hey.
Number 1.
There you go.
That'd be
Front
nice.
line.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Who's your biggest inspiration in the radio community?
I'll tell you, it's not just one person, but when I was doing the newspapers overnight, all the late night talk show guys. Because, when you're doing a radio show 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., you really have to be good to attract an audience because most people are sleeping.
Right.
So I would listen to their thoughts, their ideas, the way they would get people to call in with some of the ideas that you would never have thought of how to get, and they would inspire people. You know, people would actually say, I got up out of bed to call because you just said that. So that's one of the things that I like to do too on my shows, maybe make people say, what the heck's he thinking when he says that? So maybe they'll call the studio to compliment or even complain. At least you know they're calling and listening.
Right, yeah.
You know, now we don't want them to be upset and mad, but we do want them to have questions because then you know you got listeners.
Right.
You know, on our web stream, we keep a little counter at the bottom. I don't know what it's called, but we have 430 unique listeners, meaning different people have tuned into our stream. So that's 430 different people who may listen every day. We can't tell that,
Right.
but we know it's gone from 0 to 430. So
awesome.
that's getting there where maybe they all listen every day.
Right.
Right.
You know, so we're slowly getting a grip, and that's all over the world.
That's
You know,
so
I have a
great.
listener in Japan.
No.
I have a listener in Boston, one of my friends from high school, who
That is so
every
cool.
day on his way to work.
That
I
is
got a
so
guy from South Mississippi who found us somehow.
That is neat.
so cool, yeah.
So, like I said, it's just all the late night guys who I listened to and got the idea of how to make people say, oh, I'm going to tune in tomorrow to see what's going on.
Right, right.
You know, if you're boring, they're not going to tune in.
Heck no. I'd be like,
No.
I never want to hear this again.
Yeah.
So that's why we kind of we try to keep it fresh. You know, I have the 3 regular things every day: the day in history, death and destruction list, word of the day, and the Ricky V medical moment. And so, you know, those things have gone over pretty good. Once in a while, I'll throw in a phrase of the day instead of a word of the day.
Okay,
Like-
I thought I had read about the phrase of the
Yep.
day thing.
Don't
yeah.
throw out the baby with the bathwater thing. Where'd that come
Yeah.
from? We say that, but you know, and
Right.
I read what that came from. So it's inspirational to some
Yeah.
people.
There's a lot of funny phrases from back in the day, like "Heavens to Betsy."
Yeah.
Like, who made that one up?
And,
you know?
and why did they use it?
Right.
What's
right.
Betsy got to do with heaven that I don't know about?
Heavens to
Yeah.
Betsy.
Hmm.
But it like makes sense and it doesn't make sense. It's like you know what it means,
But-
but what does it mean?
But we use it,
Right.
you know. So,
We know how to use it, but we don't know what it means.
and that's what we're all about in radio, making people think. You know, things that
I
make
like
you go,
that, yeah. Right. Use the old up top.
Yes.
I know what to say now. I just
Okay.
Oh
run
boy.
the paper. Okay. You
You
got
know
any?
what to say.
You got any tips and tricks to like help people and us?
Anyone
Like,
trying, trying to do
trying to
something
do-
like a radio show,
Right.
a podcast, anything.
The biggest thing I think is people got to ignore the microphone.
Yeah, it's intimidating for
We can
everybody.
always sit around and talk as friends,
Right.
but when somebody has a microphone in front of you, people go,
they can
you know,
use it.
and they can't see our face now, but we
Yeah.
all got that 1,000-mile stare.
Right.
But
It was like blunt.
just
You're like,
just ignore the microphone, pretend you're talking to other people who are sitting with you, and just let it fly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You know,
Because at first it was scary, and then like now we're like, click.
Exactly.
We're just talking. Yeah.
and you get comfortable with it. I mean, I've had people come up here, and I'll let them do like the daily weather once in a while. And the daily weather is like 30 seconds of reading,
Right.
and some people it takes 9 minutes because they're like intimidated by the microphone
Right.
and all. So you know, but once they get used to it, it's
It's
relaxing.
like
and
second nature. Yeah.
it's
like
right. So
really
forget the
forming.
microphones there. Forget you're even going to do some kind of production or recording, and just talk.
Yeah. Forget everything and just do it.
Hmm.
Basically, you're living out your dream right now.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's great.
That is-
I
yeah.
think that's wonderful.
It's a nice way to, what's the word? Relieve stress by talking
Right.
without being angry.
Right.
You know, the world's angry. You know, the last few years, you talk, it gets a little bit of the steam worked off.
Yeah.
Of
It feels
course.
good.
You know, and
Yeah.
plus I know I'm impacting some lives. I mean, I don't think I'm saving lives, but I think there are people who listen
Yeah. You're
who
making a difference.
they want to know what I'm going to say next, because there's a lot of times I do say things that make people probably sit up or stand up and say, uh-oh.
Right.
But that's what it's all about, getting a reaction from someone.
Right.
If I'm talking and they're just sitting there staring blankly, then I'm not doing a good job.
Right. Yeah. We feel the same way. This is a very fulfilling thing. I feel like we're changing, maybe not changing lives, but I mean, we're
Right.
like
Yeah.
we're making a difference for sure.
For sure.
And we're really trying to promote as much like local talent and art as possible.
And people really do, once they gravitate towards you and they listen, then they look forward to listening again.
Right.
Yeah, we
like,
had
what are they
a-
going to do?
Yes, yes. And it takes up that time. A lot of people who, they think they have a boring life, that takes up some of their boredom.
Right.
So they sit down with their coffee or their snack,
Right.
and it's like, well, I can't wait till they come on.
It
Or,
becomes like a ritual for them.
sure.
Like,
And-
"Ah,
yep, and if you're not there, then they're like, oh, what do I do?
Right.
Tweak out. Like, what am I going to do with my hour?
That's right, see?
Yeah.
We got it all covered.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, how do people find you so I know?
We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, under Post Meridian Podcast. We have some older episodes on SoundCloud that we're working on getting off of SoundCloud, but they don't make it easy, so that's not cool.
No.
But yeah, pretty much YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
Okay.
We also have an email. You can email us if you ever want to be on our show. postmeridianpodcast@gmail.com.
We do a total tunage episode if you ever would like to come on and talk about your top 10 favorite songs of the week.
Right.
Oh, my.
We
Sure.
do that.
We can do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
one of our It's like people love that one 'cause it's like, who doesn't love talking about music?
See that? Yeah.
Music brings people together. We love it. I don't know who I'd be without music.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even
Be
want to know
nothing.
who I'd be.
It's the international language.
It
Yeah.
is.
You know.
Between that and smiling or laughing.
Mm. No, that's for sure. The world needs more laughing and smiling.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Spread
Yeah.
that joy around people.
Crack the
Alright.
old jokes. Yeah.
So I guess.
I'm just gonna get into. We do off the wall questions.
All right.
Okay, so, your dog's name is Max, right?
Yes.
Okay, how's the dog?
He's doing really well. He's 12 years old now.
Don't we
I've
really
had him
well?
for 9 years. He's kind of a rescue dog. And he went deaf this past spring,
That's so sad.
unless he's just trying to ignore me.
He's become a little brat.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's doing very good, yes.
Aw, that's so sweet.
And you save animals.
Yes.
Tell us about.
Okay, yeah, I'm an animal lover at
We
times.
do.
I
Oh,
love
my.
animals.
I've always been a big cat fan. When I was younger, my mother and I we had a habit of scraping the cats off the roads that would get hit, and would take them to the vets and would nurse them back to health. And she always had 6 or 7 cats, a couple dogs, maybe rabbits or this or that. And my dad always said if there was a rhinoceros running loose in Ellwood, my mom would have took it in.
Right.
Well, I've continued that. I had
That's so
8
sweet.
cats 3 years ago, but the people in my neighborhood would let the strays breed.
Oh my
So there was a cat explosion. So I made it a mission to get all the cats, get them all fixed, try to find them homes.
Right.
I just caught the last female adult in my neighborhood I had to catch. So I got 50 cats.
50 cats.
50 cats.
What do you do?
Holy smokers. Where are they?
Yes.
Well, I got 20 in the house, and I got a big garage I built 2 cat rooms for.
That's a good idea.
Because I don't want them to go out. I don't want no one to get hit by a car.
No way.
I don't want them to get sick. I don't want them to get disease. So they're all indoor. And I got a few that are still stray, but I got to let them get used to the other cats before I put them somewhere, because then there'd be big fights.
Oh, yeah.
So it's an expensive, time-consuming habit, and they all get attention every day. I don't just walk past the cats.
You're a busy man.
Oh,
Very busy.
my.
It sounds like your heart is
you're a good
at full
person.
capacity.
Oh, well.
I don't even
Well,
know. That's
That's very
Yeah.
selfless.
It's a lot. And like I said, I've been able to find probably 15 homes. So if I didn't find homes for them, I would have kept them. I'm not kicking anyone out. Who do you kick out? People say, why don't you get rid of a few? And I said, well, they've been with me now 2 years.
Right,
Which one? I say, you and you go?
Yeah, but like the rest can stay.
There's no way.
No.
So
Right.
even a female I caught recently and one of her boyfriends, he got fixed too. Eventually, they're going to go somewhere in one of my rooms, you know.
Right.
But then that's it. No cats.
Do you,
That's so sweet.
how do you find these homes? Do you just like put an ad in the paper?
Yeah,
or,
Facebook.
like-
Mostly
Okay.
Facebook. And I'm in touch with a few feline friend people. They're in that community where they help felines, and they'll put the word out. Because one thing I tell people is, if you want this cat, you have to promise me you'll never let it out.
Right.
If they can't promise that, I don't give them.
Right.
I
Like
keep-
you need to know that they're going to be taken care
And I don't even know if they're going to promise that and keep the promise.
Right.
But most of the times you can tell.
Right.
Right.
You know, and hopefully they've been, the few that I found homes for, hopefully they're sticking to that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are older people who don't want the cat to go out. Because I tell people, why do you want your cat to go out in the yards, walk in other animals' pee and poo,
Right.
and then they come on your couch and they're kneading the bread, you know how they do.
Yeah.
Why would you want that? Right? So
Right.
So keep them indoors.
Right.
Well, they want to go out. I said, well, too bad. You're bigger than them.
Right.
Keep them away from,
Yeah. It's like a little kid.
Sure.
No.
That's exactly. And they learn after a while.
Oh, yeah. My cats are the same way.
That's it. That's what you do. You got to get to be an authority figure and keep them in the house.
Definitely agree.
I said no, and what I say goes.
Yeah, no goes.
Or no treats.
Right. No hugs today.
That's, oh my.
Sorry.
I got a 30-pound cat, by the way.
No.
My cat Noah is 21 pounds.
30 pounds. He used to tear me up when I first met him.
That is so
He was the alpha male, big neck, big,
Wow.
and he must have been somebody's cat.
If he's that big, yeah, he was.
He wasn't a kitten. So, but the only thing I started worrying about, he kept coming across the street to see me every day. And it took about 2 months for him to quit attacking me. But I started thinking, you know what? He's going to get hit by a car because of me. So I
Right.
got him, and I got him fixed, put him in the house.
Yeah.
He's like a big cushion.
Oh my gosh.
So, they get used to each other, too. After a while,
Right.
they get used to each other. And there's still some fights, believe it or not.
I'm sure.
With that many cats that
Especially,
close. But they
males and-
basically get along.
That's a bunch of love you get every day.
Okay,
Those
do you have
cats
names for them all?
Every one of them has a name. Usually a musical person. I have a Sammy Davis Jr. I have a Marilyn McCoo, Billy Davis Jr., Slash, Seal, Gloria Estefan, Cher.
Oh my gosh.
Peter, Paul, and
that's
Mary.
Too cool.
Some of them that don't have the musical names are because of an odd circumstance. Like one of them has 6 toes, so I call him Chief Six Toe.
Right.
One of them was a kitten. I had to peel his face off because of infection twice, so he's called Jawbone.
Oh my gosh.
That's like a hardcore name.
One has a bad right eye, so he's right eye.
Right.
One eye has a missing left eye, he's left eye,
Right.
Oh, wow.
But other than that, yeah, they all have names, except for the recent kittens. One's Winona Judd, one's Naomi
I
Judd,
love
because they were the same litter, sisters, but so what?
Right.
Yeah.
But there's still a couple young ones I'm kind of thinking. One has a black chin, so he might be Chief Black Chin.
Right.
His brother has a white chin. He might be Chief White Chin.
Yeah.
Running out of ideas.
Honestly, I would be too at this rate. That's a lot of cats.
Yes. And there's 15 of them that sleep with me and Max every night.
Oh, wow.
I bet. I would not be able to move.
That's the idea. They're like sardines.
In there. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I thought sleeping next to 2 cats was bad.
See, maybe it's radio that got me into this cat thing because this all started happening at the same time. Maybe I'm going crazy.
Wow.
Maybe I'm insane.
Yeah.
Just a loving heart you got.
Yeah, that absolutely. Biggest heart around, honestly. How about, what's your favorite genre of music?
I like 70s and 80s rock and roll.
Rock and roll?
Yeah, big Paul McCartney, Rod Stewart, Kiss. Yeah, early Van Halen. Of course, cousin Donnie Iris.
Yeah.
Gotta put a plug in for the cuz, Electric Light Orchestra from back in the day. The Beatles, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I was more of a Beatles than a Stones fan.
I do like the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, they're good, but I don't like the Beatles. To me, were a little more mellow. I wasn't a real edgy kind of guy like the Stones were,
Yeah.
But yeah, and even today, there's not much music I like really. I quit listening to music when grunge come in.
We're
we
total
love
grunge.
grunge.
You guys
So
grunge, okay?
sorry.
No,
It's
because
when we were born, 1992, 1993.
but because it was such a downer music, I kind of like, I want
yeah.
music to be lifting,
get
That's
it.
why I like some disco.
Disco's good.
Wasn't a huge disco fan, but it was always happy.
Right.
Right.
And always got the feet moving, or
Yeah.
But the grunge just kind of.
I guess it just depends. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, you cling on to what you're born in your era. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with those choices too, though. I really do like the 70s, 80s,
Mm-hmm.
60s, even.
Yeah, sure.
We can't listen to this stuff these days. We try.
Yeah, this new generation
But
of
like,
music. I
it
feel like a
doesn't make
grandmother.
sense. Right.
I feel
Yeah.
like I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't even
No.
want to know what they're talking
Me
about.
neither.
And to me, the girls all sound like they're yodeling.
Yeah.
You
Not
know,
even the good yodeling.
it's like they're working the skeleton. It's like what? And the guys, I don't. I can't even pick a name out. But let's say, for instance, Justin Bieber. I don't know really what he's all about. I just can't.
I don't
he's
even
here.
want to know.
I mean, maybe the last few groups I liked that were recent was Matchbox 20. I like some of their stuff.
Love me some Matchbox.
Goo Goo Dolls. I like some of their stuff too.
Yeah.
Some of the things Santana done with some of the recent Coldplay was it singer that Nickelback singer that joined him on that song Why Don't You and I. You know, I like that kind of collaboration. I still like Madonna. She still does some pretty good stuff, you know. I mean, even though she's 85. Well, not really.
Hope you never hear this.
That's right, yeah. And if you do, call us 724.
Call me directly.
That's right. Get my hotline. But yeah, I don't get the rap at all.
No.
Although I think a lot of their stuff is very ingenuitive, if that's the right word. They do incorporate a lot of things. I like how they put some old rock and roll songs with their stuff.
Right.
I think that's a pretty good idea, and that's, you know, makes me listen a little bit. But as far as the rap goes,
I like very little rap.
Like old rap, if anything.
Right.
Okay.
Project Pat, Ludacris.
Okay.
The newest one I can get into is Kevin Gates. I will always say that.
I don't know that one at all, yeah.
Is he good? I can't even get into it.
Oh, my. I hope that...
He is so good.
I hope the microphone picked that whisper up.
I can guarantee you it did. You can hear a cricket across the street with this.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, or if you want to wrap this one up and head on to...
Yes, and we're going to have the girls on WXED right after this podcast. I'd like to say thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you.
We can work hand in hand, getting each other out there in the stratosphere of information, and
Absolutely.
we'll make it work. Good. Thank you very much, girls.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on Post Meridian Podcast.
Yes.
You know, find us on Instagram, Facebook. Gmail us. Hello.
Gmail.
If you want to be on the show, talk some tunes, videos, whatever. If you're a writer, painter, talker, an interesting person, not total wacko, come on the show. Get a hold of us. We'll talk
Come
to
on
you.
down. Yeah,
Please and
absolutely.
thank you.
All right. Well, until next time. Adios.